Hello. Oh, I'm so pleased to be back. Here we are. Um, and you will be pleased to know as well that I have a light. So hopefully I won't be disappearing into the dark like I did last month. Um, and I do look, I do can see sort of some crow's feet going there, but that's okay. That's okay. I hope you've all had a wonderful time and you've all got your whiskies. This does seem to be working really well for everyone. That the whiskies are arriving, and then we can go straight into discussing them, which is really exciting. I just wanted to remind you all that you can still, if you loved any of these bottles and you want to get your hands on them, you can head over straight over to our Whisky Me website, and you can pick a full-size bottle up. And you also should be able to get it at a special price just for you as well. Um, Last time as well, you might have seen after our live that we sent you an email asking for some feedback. And thank you so much to all of you that did. It's really helpful. We're really invested in trying to grow this channel and make it into something wonderful that you guys really enjoy. And we'll be doing the same again moving forward. But also, what we'll be doing is running like a little competition as well. So everyone that puts some feedback in, um, your name will go forward, and then a lucky few of you will actually win an extra 3 months of Whisky Me. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, if you do have the time, we'd love to get your feedback. I know it's very early in the year for talking about this kind of thing, but Christmas will be coming soon. So do keep a lookout because we are working on a few things as well. So hopefully we can enhance your Whisky Me experience even more. Well, I think by the looks of it, everything is going well. So we're actually set up to get the first guest in. You might remember from last month that we trialed something new, which was the coin flip to see who would go first. But what I didn't do is I didn't tell you which one was which. So heads will be the traditional, and tails will be the explorer route. So I'm going to give it a go, and I'm going to try not to drop the coin. I know 1 month I'm going to, and it's going to be horrendous, but we'll give it a go. Ah, interesting. It's tails. Right, so let's see who we're about to bring in. Hopefully, if technology works.
Wow.
Ah, here we
There it
go.
is. Instantaneous.
JP, how you doing?
I'm good, James. I'm good.
Right, now, where are you joining us from in the world?
I am joining you from a small university campus in Vermont.
Wow.
My
I
boss
love that.
bought like an old little college campus, liberal arts school, a couple of years ago, and we're turning it into like Whiskey Wonderland.
Oh, I love it. Right, so let's zoom out a little bit and what's the story behind Hogsworth?
Yeah, great question. Great question. So, Hogsworth whiskey here is the big bottle. I think you guys have all the little ones. You see breakdowns on the back. You've got my pig friend here. Now, I think my pig friend here is going to be a great kickoff to this whole, Hogsworth story, really. Hogsworth whiskey was started by Raj Peter Bhakta, who founded Whistle Pig Whiskey, which you're familiar with that, James, I'm
Yeah.
sure, right? As I'm sure a lot of the other listeners are. So back in 2008, my boss started Whistle Pig Whiskey, a small craft rye whiskey company out of a smaller town in Vermont, and grew it up to the international company that we all, love and love so dearly. I actually have a little Whistle Pig tattoo here. I was
No
an
way.
intern for him when I was a university student, so I've been traveling around the world with him on our hunt for ultimate vintage spirits, which we've actually released through a brand called Bacta. But what does this mean? So my boss loves pigs. Couldn't tell you what it is. It's made him some money. Could be a fetish. I really don't know. But he loves the pigs so much. He wanted to launch Hogsworth whiskey, and so Hogsworth is really a new take on bourbon whiskey, the category as a whole. As you guys may know, and I invite you to go ahead and start tasting now. I've got some here in my glass. I don't want to stop you from tasting. Says, go ahead, get to nose the glass. We can talk about, kind of the tasting notes, what I get, a little bit more in depth and what's inside. But in terms of the brand, right, it's made up of two components. So the first component is whiskey, bourbon whiskey. There's actually two bourbon whiskeys. One's from Tennessee, and the other one is from a small state in the U.S. called Minnesota. We've worked with two brokerage firms that produce mass whiskey. We really like these. Both vintages are from 2019. And then the other piece is Armagnac. So it's not every day that, you taste bourbon whiskey and Armagnac. And, why do we do this? Why do we put this blend together? Well, after Raj sold Whistle Pig, he started traveling the world, right? He went to every country known to man. He was in Scotland. He was in India. He was in Japan. He was in France. I mean, we found this collection of spirits over in France. The Riz du Perron family was the former chateau owner and the former brand. They had been collecting Armagnacs for 5 generations, had amassed this collection. Really, they were doing a little bit of hoarding, I'll be honest. They weren't doing too much selling, but it's okay because we came in a couple of years ago and found this collection. We had never seen such a thing so old. When you look at the world of whiskey, what's old? 10, 20, 15, 50 years, in some cases when we get up to scotches, we're older. But to have something even older than that, blew our minds, especially the American minds, because we're a little more, feeble over here, and we don't understand the fine spirits as the rest of the world does, that being Armagnac. And so Raj ended up a year later with this full collection of Armagnac, 1868 to, again, present day. He kept going, he kept buying spirits, again, all over the world, putting them all under one house here in Vermont. We, of course, still have the property over in France where the Armagnacs come from. But we had all these spirits, and we were like, what are we going to do? We can hit everything from a traditional standpoint. We can release a vintage bourbon, a vintage scotch, a vintage Indian single malt, a vintage, whatever, right? We could do that. But we're saying, what are we going to do next? And one day, it actually started with bourbon and Calvados and Armagnac. We just happened to put these things together one day just to see what it would taste like. My boss is a bit of a madman and said, yeah, you know what, screw it. Let's see what happens. So we did it. Tasted amazing. It was like an infinity dram. I don't know if you guys have ever done that, where you just do a little bit of a bottle and the bottle and the bottle. Like, we had no idea what the hell was going to happen with the thing. But then we tasted it, and we're like, holy shit. Like, I think we're on to something here. This is me, Raj, and our master blender. And so we kept kind of playing around with it, and we're like, are we just, a little tipsy? Are we a little drunk? Are we telling ourselves? So we let it sit overnight. We put the little cap on the thing. Next thing you know, we wake up, we're fine. We taste it again. We're like, you know what? Like, that's really good. Why? Well, we are getting some of the best elements of both things in terms of youth, in terms of age, and then in terms of flavor and complexity, right? Bourbon whiskey, something we all love. At least us Americans, we really love it. Bourbon whiskey, right? Sweet, light, fruity, a little bit of spice, a little bit of attack. Comes from corn, wheat, barley, whatever the mash bill is. It's a nice feeling, right? Now, Armagnac, one of the world's oldest spirits, has ages that nothing can beat. We have an Armagnac that's aged for 75 years. The color on that thing is absurd. So depth, flavor, that you're never going to get in an American profile. You bring the two together, and they create this layer, almost like a red velvet cupcake, right? Or rather, a red velvet wedding cake, right? Big, long base, right? Whether that's the bourbon whiskey or the Armagnac. The Armagnac really layers on top and starts to create a different mouthfeel, different taste profiles, different textures. There's a fruitiness that's involved. It's kind of the next progression for us, right? And then in terms of youth and age, right, the average age on this bottle is 9.5 years old, 9.4 technically. That's almost 10 years old, right? We have a spirit in here, we'll go over the components in a second, from 1982. That's a 40-plus-year-old spirit this day and age that we've mixed into the bourbon. So there's this saying that Raj loves to use all the time. And I think one day when I get old, I'll feel this way too. Hopefully no one's old on this call. No, I'm just kidding, but maybe. But he's got this saying, and it's like, I wish I could take what I know now and then give it to my younger self, right? And that's what this is, because you've got, 40 plus year old spirits going in with something from 2019, fairly young in the world of whiskeys, right? 6, 7 years old at this point. And you're combining them. So a beautiful, beautiful layer right on top. And that's where you get, the spirit itself. Again, average age 9.5 years old. That really, that 10-year always kind of hits the sweet spot for me a lot of times, maybe some of you listeners as well, but there's nothing else like it, right? And then again, where are we going? Why are we doing this? Because why the hell not, right? If we were drinking what we drank 40, 50, 60 years ago, like 80 years ago, we'd be drinking brandy, right? Then we switched to whiskey. Like, let's put the both together and see what happens. It's almost like a split-based cocktail. I don't know if you guys ever do cocktails or anything like that, but like a split-based cocktail in one, whether it's a tiki drink or whatever. You split-based, 2 spirits in one. Which for me, more depth, more flavor, more age. I'm all about it. And then I love the label. I love the pig. We've got our friend here, Mr. Hogsworth. H.W. Hogsworth is his name.
It's a fantastic bottle if anyone gets a chance to see it. We're getting some tasting notes already coming in. Liz is saying, I get boozy raisins, Christmas cake, and vanilla on the nose. Rather lovely. And Jeff, what have we got here? Oh, that's a sweeter taste than expected from the nose. Oh, that's an interesting comment. Quite fruity.
Yeah, very floral on the nose.
So, I imagine this is what a lot of people are saying because we're all here for whiskey. So, what actually is Armagnac?
Great question. So, Armagnac, one of the world's oldest spirits, France's oldest spirit to be exact, the distillation was brought over to them by the Moors actually many, many years ago. But Armagnac is cognac's older, better looking cousin, is what I like to say. Most people know cognac, right, James? The French brandy comes from wine, comes from the cognac region up in this area of France. Armagnac is its older cousin, landlocked area, another region, right? Cognac, Armagnac, similar to the idea of champagne, Scotch, bourbon, whatever. It has to come from that region in order to be called what it is. So very similar to cognac, right? It's typically, from a flavor profile, typically deeper, older, richer. A lot of times, most times we keep everything in vintages. We do blends similar to cognac, VS, VSOP, so on and so forth. But Armagnac is kept in vintage form, meaning we, have every year. So as I was getting on the back of the bottle, it's got our vintages, 2010. I know you guys can't see that, but 1982 it is there. Trust me. But it's, in a sense, French brandy, right? So what are our differences from cognac? One is going to be that aging, how they age, vintage format. 2 is going to be the grapes that go into it. We have 1 grape traditionally for cognac, whereas we have up to 10 grapes that we can use in the Armagnac world, different terroirs, farms, soils, etc., as well as the distillation as well. That's going to be a little bit different. The biggest reason I would say that most people don't know what Armagnac is, unless, there's probably quite a few of you that do know what Armagnac is. As you guys are a little more sophisticated than we are on this half of the world when it comes to spirits. So, hats off to you for that. But it's a landlocked area. So when you look at, cognac, right, it's on that northwest piece of France. So it's right next to the waterway. You can export it, get it out to the world. You have the 5 major houses in the world that control arguably 80 to 90% of the cognac production. Whereas Armagnac, up until a couple of years ago, was really flipped. There was a ton of houses in this small little area, but there's no waterways for these people to get out to. There's no rivers. There's streams, rather. You can't put a ship in there. So the spirits didn't get out to the world. So maybe some of you guys have experienced this, but a lot of times when I visit France, I see an Armagnac list at menus to be a little bit thicker than their cognac because it's their prized possession. They look at every year. It's got its own story, its own year. There's its own things happening, right? You look at Armagnac, it's survived world wars, right? Countless French invasions. This stuff is damn near biblical in my mind, especially being a young country over here. That's a little bit about Armagnac. Long-winded answer though for you.
Yeah, and so what kind of tasting notes do you get from this one here?
Definitely get the raisin off the top. Floral, like cherry notes a little bit. That bourbon starts to kind of jump out to me a little bit in terms of like a little sweetness corn. And then yeah, really explodes. A lot of corn, a lot of like sweet flavors, little like creme brulee almost, kind of cherry notes on the back. What I love about this is the mouth feeling. It may not necessarily be super thick, but it's hitting me on the top and the bottom of my mouth, which is really kind of speaking to me right now. It's kind of playful. Finish. People hate the word smooth, but I'm going to use it. Smooth finish, no burn on the back. A little bit of baking spice kind of comes up. The flavor continues to linger though. I get like a little bit of like stewed fruits. That corn kind of just cuts through for me and still provides like a nice sweet layer on it. Almost a little cinnamon maybe actually.
It's really interesting because I get, for me, I'm, for me on the nose, I'm like, oh, I'm going to drink a bourbon. And then I go and the palate starts, and then we start going in a direction I'm not used to. So I just think that's really fantastic. What a great experience. Is this something that you guys are going to continue to do? Are you going to release other expressions?
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys actually have batch one
Cool.
right now. Batch one is sold out throughout the rest of the world. You guys are the last people to have it, which is pretty cool. That being Whisky Me and associated retailers, or you guys pretty much have the only Hogsworth that exist. We have batch two coming out, excuse me, that's available now, and then we're actually doing something with a 10-year as well. So the idea behind Hogsworth is to kind of keep it right around this 9 to 10-year age variance, but maybe slightly changing. So batch two, we actually increased the bourbon a little bit. So this one was 55-45, the next one was 60-40, and then we're actually going to be releasing an 80-20 at some point. So you can kind of see the different variations. Once we get to that 80-20, we'll kind of plateau. But this has been a fun little limited release to play around with. It was kind of a test into the world to see what we can get. And for those of you that may be like James and weren't really sure what to expect, like that's good, that's okay. This is supposed to be different, right? It's supposed to be a little bit playful. It's supposed to challenge your palate a little bit. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons that they chose the spirit today. It's not just the bourbon, it's not just an Armagnac. It kind of hits different things. And it has you questioning, what did I just taste? Does that work? For maybe many of you, it may work. For some of you, it may not. But at least you know what you don't not like now. But for me, it's a fun, playful expression. And then if you guys are into cocktails, this thing is killer in an old fashioned. We'll
Cool.
probably be having a couple of those tonight.
So
What do you
tell me,
think, James? I mean,
yeah.
do you have any questions about it that you think would be helpful to explain it all?
I mean, I love this kind of approach. I don't know if anyone can see behind me those bottles there. They're all infinity bottles, and you mentioned that at the beginning of your talk. I think more playful interaction with spirits is a great thing. And I'm very jealous that you guys obviously had that blending session and then stumbled across something like this. And it's just quite a fun thing, right, to see what you can produce from two different spirits. We need to sort of remember that for a long time before single malts or single barrels in bourbon, is that a lot of whiskey was blends, and you can normally make something greater. And I think Hogsworth here is a fine example of that. I'd be really interested to hear more about the venue that you guys are at. And you were saying you were wanting to turn it into a whiskey wonderland.
Yeah, Whiskey Wonderland. So a couple of years ago, we have a farm, of course. We're farmers still. But a couple of years ago, this university this college campus rather came up for sale. Liberal arts school, looked like a cool opportunity. Raj called me one day and he's like, "Cancel my schedule. I'm going down to the college." I'm like, I don't know what that means, but sure, whatever. He's like, I think we've got something here. And I'm like, oh, okay, what do we have here? And he's like, it's this defunct college, 26 building, 155 acres. He's like, we're going to turn it into Spirits Wonderland. So he then bought this college, and we've been slowly turning each individual building into a different part of the whiskey or the spirits world, rather, right? I said vintage spirits. Our other brand is Bacta Spirits. We do vintage blended spirits in this one as well. But our library, for example, it's a whiskey library. Again, James has a great background there. He actually has books in his whiskey library. Many of you may have forgotten the books in your whiskey libraries, but we have a 3-floor with a basement, 4-floor technically, library, 180 books, but 180,000 barrels, okay, that match the years of our vintages. They go back, with first editions. But it's 3 floors. So that's like a tasting experience. I just had guests on the campus. They were picking out a barrel for us for their steakhouse. Then we brought them in the library at at midnight to go taste some barrels of whiskey. We tasted through all their birth years. We have some of our experimental stuff in there. So that's one of the buildings. The next building we actually turned into a little educational facility for the booze business. We've got bitters making. We've got a 101 educational facility. We're going to be putting a hotel there. We're dedicating each different brands rather to the different buildings. So we've got different brands, like I mentioned, Bacta. We're turning our art gallery into an Armagnac gallery, right? So that you can go through, see all the different vintages on displays. We've talked about putting a cooperage in here because there's a woodworking facility for that to perhaps make our own barrels. So each individual building will be dedicated to a different spirit or a different brand that we produce. We've got, the Bacta, the Hogsworth now that I've mentioned. We have plenty of other things, in the back of our minds that we're going to be pushing out. And so it's a fun place, one, to, live, two, to host guests at, and then three, we're really kind of creating, again, a spirits wonderland, right? I don't know if you guys have ever been to America or you look this up, Epcot. You can drink around the world. It's a very American thing, I guess. You can try different things from all the countries. You'll be able to do that on this campus. So you go to our vintage library, then you go to the Armagnac gallery, then you go to the bourbon facility, then you're watching barrels being made on a different part of the facility, where we're using wood that comes from our own trees. About 30 minutes up the way, we've got a giant orchard where we've got apples, corn, grapes planted. So that'll be, the facilities will be feeding themselves in a sense. But if you look here, this is the old headmaster of one of the schools. I like him. He's a little creepy actually, but
he's looking after you.
He's keeping an eye on us. So it's a place for everybody, right? Even one day we'll have a vodka, which I'm not a big vodka guy, but some people are. Vintage vodka, perhaps.
Why not? Why not? So I'd like to ask a little bit of a nerdy question. That's actually about the marrying process and sort of how long you'll actually leave these two spirits together. Well, actually, it's more than two spirits, but you know what I mean. If you could go into that kind of section of the process, that'd be great.
Yeah, great question. So the spirits themselves, pre-blended, are either going to be sitting still in barrel or in a stainless tank where we don't want them to age anymore. After that, we will put them in a big foudre, which is like a giant frickin' barrel. The spirits then go in there and they marry for anywhere from 30 to 60, 70 days at the latest. It's something that we do test. We have to taste. We want to see. Minimum 30 days these sit in there. It typically does the job, but sometimes things need a little bit more, a little bit less, as we're batching it out.
Okay. Very fascinating. I love it so much. I'm so pleased to have experienced this. And as you said, JP, we are the exclusive sampling partner for this in the UK. So that's quite exciting for all of you that got sent your pouches. And JP, you're actually going to join us later on when we do a little bit of a roundup. So that would be quite exciting. But in the meantime, I'm going to just say thank you. That was such a wonderful experience, and thank you for sharing this spirit with us.
Absolutely, James. Thank you. Cheers, mate.
Cheers. Well, there we go. How cool was that? I mean, an amazing nose on this one, and it's really great to. Sometimes with whiskey, we can sort of stay in our own lanes, and oh, I only like peated stuff, or I only like stuff from Speyside, and it's really great actually to challenge your palate, and to sort of try new things, um, and then also malt alternatives, which I guess this is one, just to kind of refresh the palate, which is never a bad thing. Right, we're now going to move on to the traditional route. I'm hoping, with the power of technology, that we're going to have another guest. You never quite know, but hopefully we will. Oh, look at that! Whew.
Won't lie, Jack. I considered hiding there, so that you just cut to an empty room. But it's...
Can you hear me, Gary?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. I think you might be frozen, but hopefully we'll get you back in a minute.
No props.
But where are we finding you? I have a hunch it's not the USA.
No, so I am just outside Glasgow, south side of Glasgow.
Nice. And which distillery are you from?
So I am global brand ambassador for the Loch Lomond group. So that covers Glen Scotia, Little Mill, but for tonight we are on Loch Lomond.
Oh, fabulous. Loch Lomond's a very interesting distillery, making some waves, I would say.
The good news for everyone tonight is that we get no less complicated from JP's chat. If anything, we just carry it on at that level, but just in Scotch.
So tell us a little bit more about Loch Lomond as a distillery. I think it might be. You could describe it maybe as a Willy Wonka, Charlie Chocolate Factory of the whiskey world, maybe.
Yeah, no, it definitely gets that kind of reputation, and it's a distillery. So we've been on the site we're on since 1966, and the vast majority of the history. So the Loch Lomond group, as it stands now, is only about 11 years old, and probably the kind of the 20 or so years before that. The main focus of Loch Lomond, the distillery, was on blended Scotch. Run by a man called Sandy Bullock, and his drive was basically to be totally self-sufficient. So blended Scotch, you need grain whiskey, 80 to 90% is grain whiskey. All of your flavour comes from that 10-20% of malt. And unless you are Diageo or Pernod, the malts you need to buy from different distilleries to bring in different flavours and create different blends. Sandy Bullock didn't want to do that, so he bought a bottling hall, bought a distillery, and then evolved in that distillery to basically be able to make everything himself. So he added grain, so we're the only distillery in Scotland that can produce both malt and grain in the one site, so we're the only distillery that can produce a distillery named Blend. And where we have a mad still floor where most distilleries will have, and people have seen the pictures of them, these the swan neck pot stills. Big bulb in the bottom, kind of angled neck, and then the angled line arm coming off the top. In the most basic of terms, like with a swan neck pot stills, you can only really create 3 spirits. Heavily peated, unpeated, and heavily peated, medium peated, and unpeated. But we have very unique stills. So we've got a set of straight neck pot stills that were designed for us. And in simplest terms, they create another 5 styles of spirit.
Okay.
So we have a distillery that can create 8 distinct new make spirits. So that's, and the whole thing is about bringing more flavour through distillation rather than being reliant on casks. So these 8 distinct new makes have all got a familial similarity to them. They're all distinctly or very clearly from Loch Lomond, but they're all very distinctly different. From a blended Scotch point of view, it gives Sandy Bullock ultimately the ability to recreate any regional style of Scotch, almost any regional style of Scotch, from one still room floor. The only one we can't make is Campbelltown, because you A, need to be in Campbelltown, and B, Campbelltown distilleries have quite short, squat stills, which we don't have. But ultimately, that's why he bought Glen Scotia. So he then had the access to every single spirit that he can make that you would need to make whatever blend you then need. But again, the flip side to that is that remembering that 80% of the spirit in blended Scotch is grain, and you're only using 20% as the malt. So he was still producing a lot of malt whiskey and filling 28 warehouses at our site with this stuff, but not bottling it in any significant volume. So the opportunity for the Loch Lomond group was to come in, get all these spirits, create this wonderful range of whiskies, and get them out into the market. And it's been a mad 11 years, if I'm being totally honest.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And then I could have get my facts wrong, but am I right in thinking that you actually have an on-site cooperage as well?
We do, yeah. So there are only 4 distilleries in Scotland that have got an on-site cooperage, and that's not to say. So most distilleries will have a cooper or a couple of coopers on site repairing some casks.
Mm-hmm.
We would term it as a full service cooperage, in that ultimately the only thing we don't do at the cooperage is make brand new barrels. So our guys, we've got a team of 8 at the moment. They'll be repairing and maintaining anywhere in the region of 20 to 30,000 casks per year. And then we've also got a rejuvenation process which allows us to dechar and rechar. Essentially, it's akin to the STR process.
Mm-hmm.
But it allows us to, rather than the standard 3 uses of a cask, as most distilleries do, we can use our casks up to 9 times.
Very good. And then
So-
I know that people are going to be desperate to try this whiskey, but just before
Yeah.
we do, you mentioned an STR cask. So let's just quickly go over that so people are all on the same page. And then I
Yes.
promise we'll drink some whiskey
So-
then.
Shave STR stands for shaved, toasted, recharred. So essentially, they will mechanically shave away the charcoal from the inside of the cask. They will toast the inside of that cask and they'll rechar it, or toast or rechar it. Has historically been ex-red wine casks at the start, not necessarily now always. So our rechar process is slightly different in that we're using a stainless steel brush rather than shaving it. So we're taking less of the wood away, and then we're recharring with a propane flamethrower. Ultimately, it's quite the spectacle to behold.
Oh, look, it's always worth asking those questions because that's quite
Oh,
interesting.
no, absolutely, and that's, I think we become a bit blasé at kind of this side of the camera, where it's a phrase that we band about that often, that it's not everybody knows exactly what it is.
Yeah, and STR casks, I quite like the maturation process, so I don't mind getting a bit nerdy about that. And I'm interested about the using a brush rather than
Yes, well,
shaving it.
we'll need to get you. Need to get you up
let's,
to the distillery, James.
Yeah, that would be great. But let's let the people at home, let's let them try some whiskey. So what are we going to be
Yes, let's get
sampling?
into the whiskey. So we have, we're in a very fortunate position. We can, as much as I said, we have 8 malt new make spirits. We've got 11 spirits in total, and that allows us to we've got a core range of 3 12-year-olds. The only other brand I know that does that is Macallan. Historically, did that with their 3 different woods, but ours are all bourbon, and you get 3 very different flavour profiles from them, and it's showcasing the capabilities. We like to call ourselves Scotland's most adept and capable distillery, and this is us. It's how we really showcase the capabilities. And we talk about the Loch Lomond signature style being 3 things: fruit, honey sweetness, and soft smoke. And the Inchmoan 12 that everyone's got in their glass just now is a real putting the focus onto that smoke, that peat side of things. Peated whiskies, love them or hate them. They are the Marmite of whiskey for sure. And I think the main reason that a lot of people hate them is that many of them can be very one-dimensional. And again, it's because most distilleries have got swan neck pot stills and can only really create one style of peated whiskey. So peated whiskies can actually be split into 3 subcategories: smoky, spicy, and medicinal. But because you only produce one heavily peated spirit, you've only ever do one of them at any distillery. So if it is smoky on day one, it's always going to be smoky. If it's medicinal day one, it'll always be medicinal. You can alter it and change it using casks, absolutely, but you can't change that fundamental style. Just why sometimes you just only get smoke all the way down, and it feels like it overwhelms the palate. But because at Loch Lomond we produce 6 peated whiskies, it means we can actually identify 3 of them, with each one having one of those characteristics. So we're using 1 spirit from the Swan Neck, 2 spirits from the Straight Neck still, and it means that one of them is spicy, one of them is smoky, one of them is medicinal. They're matured individually, and then married just before bottling. And what that does, so full hands up transparency here, I'm not a massive peated whiskey fan. I'm not a big peat head, but genuinely, this is the whiskey that has opened my eyes, or opened my palate to whiskey, to peated whiskies. So my palate's very, very focused on the peat journey, if you like, and how it evolves. So let me go. So, right, straight up front, it's like there's like a ball of smoke that I get at the front.
Mm-hmm.
But the best thing I love about it is there's a lightness to it. It starts to lift. As soon as it's in the palate, it starts to get lighter. About now, I start to get the tingle of the spice just at the side of the palate. Keeps getting lighter, keeps lifting, and then as it comes up through the back of the nose, that's where I get that subtle medicinal character to it. But it just keeps getting lighter and keeps getting softer. And the thing I love about having this whiskey in any whiskey flight or any whiskey tasting is, I'll happily slap this smack bang in the middle of a tasting. I'll start tastings with this because it's not overwhelming the palate. But it does different jobs for the 2 extremes of the peated whiskies, likers or haters. So for guys like me that are newer to peat, it's because it's not overwhelming. It's almost like a gateway into peated whiskies. But for the guys and girls that love peat, it's something so different. Because we've got these unique stills and that ability to pull out these different flavour profiles. It's like nothing you've had before. The layers of it. If you're more into your peat, you'll probably get a lot more of the fruit character very early on. I'm getting it about now. But it will probably come through more, like I said, because my palate's not as used to peated whiskies. It's dealing with that peat a lot up front.
I'm pleased you said that, because for me, I get the peat straight away, and then actually I get quite a lot of fruit character coming through. And it actually reminds me of a whiskey I've had recently, which is the new Glen Scotia 12, which is part of your portfolio, but very, very similar to me, which is funny, isn't it? There you go.
Well, the main thing that will blow your mind, so obviously Scotia 12, full first world bourbon, very, very small amount of peat to it. You get a lot of the kind of depth and body from the regional style. The Inchmoan 12 that everybody's got in their glass and is drinking tonight, all 3 spirits that are in that are peated to 50 ppm. So they're peated to the exact same level as Lafroig, Ardbeg, etc. It's just because it's been distilled very differently that it makes it that, in my opinion, more approachable. It's not as overpowering. It's not, like I said, it's not blowing your palate away to the point that you're just drinking peated whiskies for the rest of the night. But there are still those layers of flavour in there for absolute sure.
Delicious. So we must cover ppm. What do you mean?
So ppm is short for parts per million. It's the kind of industry standard way of measuring the level of peat on your malted barley. It's really the only kind of reliable way to do it. It's a wee bit, it's almost a wee bit like the old car exhaust fumes scandal of test conditions, because everybody is distilling their spirits in a different way and through maturation. It's the one consistent way that you can say this started at 50 ppm. You can't always get a very precise answer at the end, or even when it comes off the still versus then how it matures through the cask. So we always tend to use that measure of the parts per million of peat that's been imbued into the malted barley before it's even gone through the mill.
And it's something I talk about in the shop in Exeter. PPMs is a great reference point, but it certainly isn't everything,
Well,
because
that's exactly, that's like I'm saying, that's where it's that petrol fumes piece. It's a reference point for a comparison, but it
Mhm.
shouldn't be taken as the be all and end all.
Yeah, yeah. And this one is really lovely. There's a lot for me, and it'd be interesting to see what you guys are getting. If you want to put any tasting notes in the comments. Um, but I'm actually quite fascinated with this. You said it at the beginning, peat straight away, but I'm getting quite a lot of fruits coming out.
Yeah.
Maybe even a little bit tropical, but that's just me this evening. There you go.
So the fruit character from Loch Lomond comes from two angles. So the first one being quite a long fermentation.
Okay.
So the fermentation process of adding yeast to the mashed wort to convert those sugars into alcohol before you then distill it. The standard process takes between 48 and 60 hours.
Mhm.
Most distilleries will take that liquid off to the stills, keep the stills running, keep production going through. We've got a fairly stupid washback capacity of 21, some of which hold 25,000 litres, some of which hold 50,000 litres. And that ultimately allows us to go for a longer fermentation. So our minimum fermentation is 92 hours.
Wow.
We currently average around about 110, and the longest we've gone is 3 weeks.
That's fascinating. So for anyone that is not quite sure what we're talking about, like when you're making the wash, which is effectively like a beer, when you do a shorter fermentation, we're sort of aiming more for the nuttier style. Is that right?
Yep.
And then if you can, if you're brave with your fermentation and you bring it out for a lot longer, a lot more fruitier and lighter. Is that right?
Yeah, so you essentially, when you get into that kind of the tail end of the 70, 80, and 90 hours, you get a secondary fermentation kicks in.
Okay.
So the yeast itself has done its job, it's converted all those sugars to alcohol, but you get a secondary bacterial fermentation, malolactic for all the science geeks that are out there. And what that does, it doesn't create any more alcohol, but what it does do is it starts to change the structure of the alcohols that are there.
Hmm.
It starts to build esters and congeners, which ultimately hold a lot of flavour, and importantly for us, fruity flavour. So that builds a real fruity beer, as you said,
Hmm.
um, which we then send off into the stills. But it's then through the different distillations, through the different types of stills, and the different cut points, that we then start to change and alter that fruit into different avenues. But the straight neck still is the one that really intensifies it. So it's a still type that was designed by a guy called Duncan Thomas. He owned Little Mill Distillery from 1930 through to 1969 when he passed away. So Little Mill was a lowland whisky. Lowland whiskies historically triple distilled, so they tended to have a light floral character. And Duncan Thomas designed this straight neck still. Sorry, he was a chemist by trade, American chemist, so he was a fairly clever cookie. Designed this still to be able to create a triple distilled style spirit using only two stills. So Little Mill was quite a small site, very limited room for expansion. But by designing and introducing these stills, he increased his capacity by a third, because he's only distilling twice rather than three times. Also managed to layer in a layer of flexibility. Flexibility is not the right kind of way. A level of yeah, flexibility is probably the right one. To be able to create different spirits using that one still, like I said, using one still to create 5 spirits instead of 3. Really, because Little Mill ultimately became one of the first whiskey brands, and from what I understand, to launch whiskies under 3 different brands. So they had Little Mill, Dunglass, and Dumbuck. And the rationale for having 3 different brands was they had very distinctive different flavours.
So are when we talk about like a copper pot still, which I imagine everyone at home has probably seen those kind of those images of the sort of the bulbous bottom and then sort of going up and around, and how the alcohol boils off before the water, and that
Yep.
raises up. Tell us a little bit more about with the straight still, what's happening in there and the copper contact.
So, design wise, you've got so it's a pot still base, which is why we can still call it single malt. But rather than the kind of cone neck, we've got a straight column. It's a rectifying head. It's almost like a like a hybrid. It's like a column still plopped on top of a pot still. And what you've got inside is perforated copper plates inside, one inside the wash still, 17 inside the spirit still. And what they do is their main job is increasing the copper contact. So as the spirit travels up the still, there's more copper for it to come in contact with. And as it does, as the vapours touch that copper, they condense back down into liquid and or fall back down into either into the pot or into the plate below it. Fundamentally making it harder for the heavier spirits to travel up the still. But it also kind of almost separates out the flavours into layers. So it allows us by determining the cut point that we use, we can be very, very precise about the flavours that we take from that, which will fundamentally change the character of the spirit as well, which is a great thing to be able to have.
Yeah. So then, just to wrap up, because this has been wonderful, and I love hearing about all the different possibilities that Loch Lomond can produce. What should we be looking out for in the future from you guys?
There's always something coming from us. We're in such an unfortunate position with the spirits that we've got, to be able to keep bringing things out. We are, like I said, the Loch Lomond group's only been going for just over 11 years, and we've only been bottling the spirits that you've got in your glass for 7-8 years. But this year we launched our fourth 50-year-old.
Okay.
So we've got a mad selection of spirits, a wonderful selection of spirits, and I think one of the challenges for us is always to be able to. There's a bit of the Hogsworth element where I think Hogsworth it sounds like they're going off this. We've got everything. We can do anything. But because we're in Scotch, like the main thing that people will say is, what do Loch Lomond whiskies taste like? So that's why we've got that solid thread running through of fruit, honey sweetness, and soft smoke. So it's always about developing these different products along that kind of straight through line. And one of my favourites that launched this year was the Waypoint series.
Okay.
So we did a Loch Lomond 16, which was finished in cognac casks. I got quite a few similarities to the Hogsworth in terms of there was that whiskey, albeit in their side with an E, but then you've got that French spirit kind of element coming through as well, and that's going to be an ongoing series. So it's like an annual release. So this was 16 Swan Neck style cognac. I'm very, very excited to see what next year brings from that side of things, because that's going to be a real. That's a bit of that flex for us. And then the other thing to keep your eye open for is the distillery editions, which, don't hate me for it, is only available exclusively from ourselves. But that's where we let Michael Henry, our master blender, take the brakes off and do mad, wonderful stuff. Whether it's releases with Chardonnay wine yeast or stuff that we won't even have the time to go into the layers of a full single estate, so single distillery blend that's made with 100% malted barley and 100% peated spirits. Like, that stuff's just layers of mental that just couldn't exist within a core range.
Oh, how exciting. Gary, I've loved this, and it's been so interesting to learn about Loch Lomond, and I'm always excited when I see something from you guys. And you're going to come and join us again in a minute at the end of the show, is that right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, of course.
Oh, thank you so much, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this one as well. But I'll say goodbye to you now, Gary. Yeah, fabulous. What I really like about these shows is that there always seems to be a theme that comes out. We don't plan this kind of thing, but definitely this month, exploration. How fantastic with Hogsworth, just being brave about blending spirits and seeing what they come up with. And then with Loch Lomond, and their experimentation with what they can do with their new make spirit. I just find that fabulous, and I think it's something for us to all remember on our whiskey tasting journey, is to be quite open. Whiskey is a fun drink, but there you go. Right, let's see if we can bring everyone back in. Hopefully we can, fingers crossed. There we go, we've got JP, thank goodness, and Gary. There we go. JP, what did you think about listening about what Loch Lomond have been getting up to with their different stills?
I mean, I wish I had some here in my hands so I could experience it. It's got me just wondering. But no, I mean, a great story, great depth in what they're doing, and it seems like phenomenal. And again, I wish I had some here to experience what you guys are over there.
And Gary, it's quite interesting. Well, I find it fascinating what Hogsworth are doing, because they're quite. With you guys obviously being Scotch whiskey, there's quite a few things that you have to stick to that actually JP's got a lot more freedom to explore.
Totally, it's that's exactly kind of what I was thinking. It's like Loch Lomond with the brakes off. It's just where you can do whatever you want, just go. Like the whiskey, your library sounds like I think I could quite happily live there for the rest of my life. I think, JP, if you would let me.
You could pull that in there.
Yeah. I mean, I have lots of questions. So, number one, it's batch 1, but it's blend number 9. Why is it blend number 9? Like, is that like the 9th infinity bottle?
It goes to the age of the spirit, so it's like 9 years.
Okay.
9 years old, 9.4 technically.
What do you technically call this? Because obviously you can't call it bourbon anymore.
Yeah, I mean, like from a technical standpoint, it's called a DSS, the distilled spirit specialty. But you know, we call it what it is, a bourbon and Armagnac blend. You know, it's
Perfect.
right on the label, and then the breakdown's on the back.
No, I love. Sorry, Jibs.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, for any of you that do want to get a bottle, you can pick it up online. But if you do turn the back, there is a full list of what's in it, and I just really applaud that, JP. It's so nice to have that kind of openness on a bottle. That transparency is really valuable, I think, to the consumer.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff that we're not allowed to do.
Yeah, I was gonna say you don't get to do that in Scotch.
Tried it.
As much. It's a lot more rules, so it's but it's fun. You guys are pushing boundaries over there with what you guys are working on.
Great spirit though, JP. Great spirit. Like I think similar to James, it was like on the nose for me. It was like an intensive, like it was like the bourbon character was really intensified. Like a candied ginger on the nose a wee bit, like, but then spice, dried fruits, and I think a tiny spot of water brought more of the Armagnac to the fore for me.
Yeah,
So-
definitely. And listeners, feel free, drop a cube in it, drop a piece of ice in it, you know, a little drop of water. That's up to you. We're totally cool with that. It's, you know, however you want.
And I loved your cherry note, because I had like cherries and syrup. It's almost like cherries that have been boiled down, not quite jammy, and like thick sweet syrup. Yeah, love it.
So, JP, I always ask this to everyone. What are you excited about for the future of whiskey as a category going forward into the future?
What am I excited for in whiskey in the future? Well, look, I think that whiskey over the past however many, you know, years, however really many years you want to call it, it's really been kind of a growing category, and everybody and their mother, you know, has released the whiskey, whether it's, you know, a Scott, you know, pick your country, pick your category, you know what it is. And I feel like it's all out there, right? So I feel like now, and maybe this is a cop-out answer, maybe not, but now more than ever, innovation, I think, is going to really play a key in what will be next for whiskey, right? Like, where are we going? Is it blending spirits? Is it going traditional? Is it what's going to happen. I think the world, I mean, especially in America, has experienced a big whiskey glut, big whiskey boom. So it's going to, it's going to contract at some point, and then those who continue to innovate and come out, are going to be, at the forefront, in addition to the big brands that have, made their claims. So I'm just very interested to see kind of what different countries with different people are doing with, whiskeys going forward. Before it was traditional, then we started cask finishing. Now we're on the verge of blending spirits together. We blend whiskeys together too. Like it's not just for shits and giggles on this. We do it with everything just to see. So it's kind of that next piece of, for Gary, like, what are you going to do next with Scotch? Like, I'm kind of wondering right now, the what are you guys going to work on that's going to, kind of stay in the public eye? So again, short answer, innovation now more than ever. You're muted, James.
And then Gary, the same question to you. What are you excited about for the future, the industry of whiskey in the future?
Can I similar to so I would say on a micro level in Scotch. So I think probably globally things have slowed a little bit. And what I think certainly what we're certainly finding within Scotch is that you're seeing folk turn things inwards a wee bit, focusing a wee bit more on the quality. We're not breaching out as much as we were. You're finding folk going a bit tighter, being more defined about your spirit quality, and about what you are as a brand. And I'm loving seeing that, because I love, one of my favourite things is from whiskies across the world is, look, what's your distillery character, what's your distillate character, and how that shines through. But similar to what JP was saying, I think you're seeing markets across the world get more serious about it. I think about whiskey and about not Scotch, but about whiskey globally. You look at the fact that America's now got American single malt. You look at the reputation of Japanese whiskies bringing in the regulations. Indian whiskey becoming a lot more prevalent. It's just, I think things getting better across the world, and becoming a bit more available to us all, which I think is great.
Oh, what a wonderful note to end on. So I'm going to say goodbye to JP and Gary. Thank you so much for sharing your malts. It's been fabulous.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And then I'll do a quick wrap up for all of you guys. So wasn't that wonderful? It's so good to hear about their thoughts about what's going on in the future, and I really agree with both of them about innovation. It's really exciting to see what all these distilleries around the world are doing. But then also we just touched on the end there about making sure that definitions are clear so that the consumer is always protected. So I think it's fabulous. If you did want to pick up any of these bottles, please head over to Whisky Me, and remember, you will get a special price for you guys. We'd love to hear your feedback. We're really trying to make this as great as possible. So any feedback on more things that you want us to cover, or anything like that, would be greatly appreciated. I love doing these things. So thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a good night. Bye.